Ah.
All right. We're streaming. So this is season 1, episode 1.
Ah! Oh, sorry. I thought
Nothing
you said
interesting.
screaming. My bad. I feel like I just ruined the entire introduction. So anything to add to my first official screw up?
Not really.
Cool. You're gonna just leave me out to dry. Nice.
Pretty much.
Well played.
I can offer you a shoe as a prize.
Ooh, I'm a shoo-in for that prize.
Exactly.
Sorry, I was trying to make a joke and just suck it to you.
I'm sure if we just sat here for a little while, we could pen something a little bit better.
Ah! Orange, you glad this isn't an orange?
I might have to book you for that one. That was a little bit too low effort.
I think I'm maxed out. Hello? It's not a joke. So I think, no, wait, you started? Yeah, so I guess we're even. Perfect. No one loses, or we both lose. I think we both lose. No, you know what? The real people who lose are whoever ends up watching this. They lose.
Yeah.
I like how within the first 5 minutes, I basically called viewers losers.
Well,
Ooh,
the joke, I mean, I think the joke's on us. It's like, who's more of a loser? The losers who watch this or the losers who make this knowing that losers are going to watch it?
actually, I think there's one more level. We think that, there's going to be losers watching, but no one's ever going to watch this. So that just makes us even bigger losers.
Oh, man.
All right. So since this is the first official episode, even though we've been doing this for over a year, how about a little intro?
Little.
Should we do intros for ourselves or for the other person?
We should do an intro for the other person that's watching this.
We're introducing the audience?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like you to meet yourself. Welcome to our show. As we've already established, we are losers. So if you are watching this, I hope you enjoy loser content. No, a big part of our philosophy is like there is a small subsection of life in the universe where we recognize nothing really matters, and so we have so much fun just leaning into that realization that it doesn't matter. So we're not here for us, we're not here for anybody, we're just here because we can be, and to have no point is the best reason to do something.
I agree with everything you said except one thing. I believe it's not a subsection, I believe it's a suck section.
It's a sex suction.
That sounds like a service a hooker would offer.
Exception. It's an inception. An outception. We're just gonna like just spiral into like loose DNA strands and just evaporate into the universe. Like the dusting in the Infinity worse. We're just gonna disintegrate into like nothingness. So if you want to watch us devolve into like even more nothing than what's already taken place so far, keep watching.
Ooh, what if this is the evolution, or in this case, devolution of the show, where it's like it's nothing interesting, and by the end, it's literally nothing because we don't even exist anymore. Ooh, and
Oh.
imagine like it's nothing, so we don't exist, so the nothing is gone, so it's just interesting. And ironically, it gets interesting when we're gone.
Can you imagine if like the show becomes more interesting when we stop doing it? You get so good at avoiding anything interesting that nothing is more interesting than not interesting.
But okay, if we take this show, and since we're kind of the actors, if you will, that kind of means that the universe is the creator. And if we end up devolving into nothingness and being replaced by something more interesting, we're literally being recast in our lives. Like, yo, you suck at your life. I'm getting someone else to do your job for you. Ooh.
Well,
I'm sure this has already been done, and I'm sure we're not going to do it. But imagine, like, if it was possible to just be like, all right, we're like, we've been talking about this whole concept of, you know, different timelines and, you know, reincarnation and everyone being the exact same, well, different versions of the exact same person. And it's like, you know, in the Parent Trap where like the twins like switch places,
mhm.
like, what if you try to do that, but like you don't look anything alike? So like you and I, let's say we switch places. It's like we pretend like we look like each other, and people are like, you look nothing alike. would would that make an interesting show, or just a really crappy show?
I think that would be, I know, I actually think that would be really interesting. If you could somehow tackle the idea of like the perception of reality, you know, how some people just like believe so hard to the point of what others experience as delusion. It's like my world is so concrete to me, I don't need anybody else to validate it whatsoever. And so it's sort of like, oh, like no, I'm like a totally other person. And like but I mean, the thing is like if only one other person agrees with you, then it's not a delusion, is it? I mean, to some degree, if it is a shared reality between those two people, I mean, that unit compared to everybody else might still be like an outlier, but within that tiny subgroup, it's it's a valid perspective.
Yeah, because like we do see ourselves differently than other people. Even if we just take the approach of like when we look in the mirror, the image is flipped. So the way we think we look is different than the way that everyone else sees us.
Mhm.
Like this is kind of like taking that and pulling it to the extreme.
Yeah.
You know what'd be funny? We do like 50 episodes. And at some point we realize like, oh crap, like for some reason, like it never like uh, registered and never went live. So we think it did, but for some reason it didn't. Ooh. All right, if we go back to that like switching thing, and if we believe hard enough that it's real, then it becomes real because the world is seen from our perspective. So to us, it's real. What do you think would happen if it's like we create a show? It's like we're delusional to the point where it's like, I believe that I have like 10,000, 100,000, how whatever number of subscribers I believe in. It's like, is it possible to believe that with enough like belief and certitude that it actually becomes a reality?
I
Do you
feel
think
like
it's possible to
I feel
have
like
like
the only way that
level
you
of
could test that is, I think the only way you could test that is to really have like a show like this, where it's like we're doing no marketing, we're doing no work for anybody else to have any sort of uh relationship or meaning in what we're doing. We're literally doing this for ourselves. So it's like if you just focus on your internal work and your belief, if you somehow get to that, it's like it has everything to do with the mindset and almost nothing to do with the content.
all right, first a dumb joke that popped into my head. I think of internal work every time I have sex. Okay, now that's out of the way. Since we both like insane challenges and ridiculous things that are probably going to fail, how about we set a ridiculous subscriber goal? Like, all right, our goal is to get 1 million subscribers with no advertising, no work whatsoever, just us doing what we normally do.
Well, I mean, I set a goal for myself last year, the year before last. So like it's been a year roughly or a little more for Tag and Teach to reach like 10 million people at some point. And that might be a lifetime goal, or it might be like, oh yeah, like with social media, it's like you could totally blow up and do that, and you get lucky and go viral, or you could, build a brand that big in 2 or 3 years. I don't know. But I mean, if we're gonna set something like really hard, like why not just completely shoot for the moon?
All right, 1 billion subscribers.
Ooh, that's like
It's
Mr.
never
Beast.
been done on YouTube, so why not be the first? Someone has to be the first. Just
Mr.
like
Beast
Elon
doesn't
Musk.
have a billion
Someone has to be the
subscribers.
first billionaire. I mean trillionaire. So why not Elon Musk? It's like someone has to be the first YouTube channel who has 1 billion subscribers. Why not us?
I'm pretty sure. Let me see. Oh no, you're right.
No, it's like
Mr.
100
Beast.
million or something.
Yeah, it's only like 95 million subscribers. But his views get like millions and millions of views.
Like at this point, to get 1 billion subscribers, you need like 1/8 of the world to subscribe to your channel.
That's true.
But I mean, we're young. Let's say we live to be 100, we still have like good 60, 65 years.
Uh-huh.
By then, the world population is probably going to be way more than 8 billion.
You never know. I wonder if like
Or maybe it's going to be like 8.
yeah, all of these like doomsday reset scenarios where it's like, oh, the population is going to go down to like 500 million, 500 million people or something. No, but what I was going to say is I wonder, right now everybody's frustrated with like, oh, fake accounts and bots and all kinds of stuff.
You said it right now.
And but what I was wondering is if I wonder if like non-human participation is going to be a thing. Like if accounts that are actually set up with certain tasks or triggers or like AI programs. So I wonder if it would be possible to have 1 billion subscribers. Not all of them are like human consumers, but they're like some of them are doing research for companies, some of them are like generating content, scraping data, and then others are like there to create engagement or different things. I don't know. I could totally see a scenario where like we just have all of these like machine based avatars, and like on some level in the specified subset of like what they're doing or the niche that they're fulfilling a role, it's like you really can't tell that it's not a human.
Also, if we're thinking like, all right, we're going to live to be another like 50 or 60 years, like alive. By then, there's a good chance that they're going to find a way to like upload people's consciousness to computers or something like that.
Mhm.
And at that point, there's going to be people who are going to decide to have digital children rather than real children. And they may or may not be considered like real humans, but they're probably still going to have a lot of the same privileges, including subscribing to YouTube channel as an example.
Mhm.
And it's like,
I think,
you know,
yeah, I
there
think,
might be 100 billion humans, there might be 100 billion sentient beings.
mhm. I mean, at least in the US, we've already have some legal precedent for that. I mean, we look at corporations as individuals or people. So um, I could totally see some sort of, I mean, it may not be a one-to-one relationship exactly, but I can totally see certain privileges, rights, like access that, you know, machines, robots, AI, programming, software, I don't know exactly what form it's going to take, but at some level, it's like computers can do functions with more accuracy and speed than humans can. And if you can get it to model human behavior, you know, there are going to be some things that's like, as long as it's not life or death, there's stuff that it would be nice for machines to take care of. It's sort of like with dishwashers, like nobody really aspires to be the best at washing dishes anymore. Most people have a dishwasher in their home, restaurants have machines that do that. And so it's like, if you know how to wash the dishes, great. I mean, it's sometimes it's nice and it's relaxing to do the dishes, but to not have to do it is a pretty good like invention of society. I imagine there's going to be other things that we'll find. It's like, oh yeah, like there's this one little piece of like conscious participation in existence that we can delegate out. Let's do it.
I just realized something. Imagine it's like we do this for 20 years. It's like we barely get any subscribers. And then like AI comes along, and for some reason, something about like our dumb conversations, AI is like, yep, we love this. So like we get all the AI.
You know what? What occurs to me is this is the only thing that AI couldn't do is just have stupid conversations about. I mean, I think you could mimic junk data, but on some level, like having a conversation that's like two people just being like, doesn't matter what we talk about, we're just gonna talk. That's something that you can't, I mean, you wouldn't really replace. At some level, like when there's there's enough tasks and things being done, the only thing left is to like build new stuff or just spend time with other.
But I feel like our level of conversation is so like random and dumb that it's just kind of like auto-generated crap. So it's like maybe we're the AI and we just don't know it.
That's an interesting theory. How would we test that?
I don't know, try to get 1 billion subscribers. I think my laundry's ready. But all joking aside, do we want to like set this as a serious goal for ourselves? Not in the sense that we need to do anything, just in the sense that we're creating this channel and our goal is 1 billion subscribers.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Why
It's like,
why would we limit ourselves in terms of trying?
because like if we look at other channels, even the most, you just looked it up, like the most subscribed to channel on YouTube is just under 100,000. He's like 10% of the way there. Like that's not even an advantage. At this point, everyone's equal to get to 10 to 1 billion.
Yeah.
Plus, we have 60 to 65 years to do this. Imagine like on our deathbed, it's like 999,994,000. Ah, crap, I'm good. Like right before.
Let's see, how many subscribers does PewDiePie have?
I think less than Mr. Beast. I don't know. I looked it up like a while.
Oh, he's got 111 million subscribers.
I think you can like in Wikipedia, I think there's like a list of most subscribed to channels.
Okay, let's see here. 1 billion subscribers. Who will hit 1 billion subscribers first?
Imagine the answer is you.
I wonder, like, is it possible for anyone to do it alone, or would it need to be some sort of like massive joint venture? Like, could you create the equivalent of like, you know how like BlackRock is this financial like behemoth that just kind of just like a vortex that tons of money flows through. I wonder if you could create the equivalent for like internet content. Like what is the mega corporation conglomerate equivalent of social media?
Okay. I feel like the equivalent is Vivo of like all these different channels, but if you add the total amount of subscribers with Vivo channels, it's probably already over 1 billion. So it's not one individual channel, but it's still kind of all interconnected in a way.
Let's see here. YouTube stats. I don't know how you would find this. Let's see. Vivo.
I'm just imagining a conversation with someone. It's like, oh, I have a YouTube channel. Oh, that's cool. And it's like, oh, by the way, my goal is to get 1 billion subscribers. Cool. How many do you have? 3. Clementine sucks. This is really uninteresting. You're doing
Interesting.
research and
A
I'm eating.
YouTube a YouTube spokesman said artists will not be able to opt out of the subscriber migration process. So Vivo branded channels are among the most followed channels on the platform. YouTube is consolidating the millions of subscribers to Vivo's channels as well as those on unofficial artist related channels under a single account for each artist. Interesting. So there already is some of that sort of like sorting and sifting happening. But even like the Vivo brand is, yeah, it'd be interesting to total all of the different brands because the official Vivo channel only has like 20 some million subscribers. Taylor Swift Vivo has 27. Taylor Swift's official YouTube channel has 2 million. It's there's like a whole like spread of stuff. I wonder how many unique subscribers there are across all of the different
Well, I think
stuff.
determining the unique subscribers would be hard.
Mhm.
I'm sure one person subscribed to like 10 different Vivo channels, and that's going to count as 10, not as one, because there's no way to know exactly.
Yeah. Universal Music Group and Sony Music Entertainment are majority owners. Alphabet owns a little bit of Vivo. Interesting. I don't know that that's information I need to do anything with. It's like that was pointless to know any of that, at least at this point in my career.
The setup really isn't good. All right, I think it's holding. Yep. You know what? It would be really funny if like this goes on for years and like I'm traveling the whole time, but I never tell anyone that I'm traveling. They just see like different backgrounds all the time. They're like, why does he keep switching places? Although I guess I kind of ruined it by saying that. Ooh, or just like make up a random place that I'm at. It's like, I'm in China right now.
Well, technically, part of you is. I mean, so much of our stuff is made in China.
True. I'm definitely wearing at least one thing made from China. Maybe this banana was made in China.
You never know.
I would be very surprised. Like going through the trouble of growing a banana in China and then shipping it all the way to Colombia to sell it. It's a little weird.
Oh man. Well, it's funny to me how much effort they spend on making like fake stuff. Like what is it? I saw something about there's like a huge counterfeit food market in China. Like what in the heck? Like they'll sell fake rice made out of plastic pellets that are I guess it's something cheaper than rice, and then they'll make like fake eggs. That's I don't know. I don't even really know how you make an egg that's fake, but I'm like, really? It seems like way more opportunity cost in labor than it would ever be worth. Like
But
it
it's
just doesn't seem like the margins would work, but maybe it's just stuff to keep people busy.
but it's kind of the same principle of why would someone put so much effort into setting up a scam when they can just set up a business?
Yeah. Well, on some level, it's like we're doing that without the scam part. It's like on some level, we're just like we're creating something that nobody needs or wants for no reason at all. And yet we're going through all of the steps of trying to make it real.
Oh wow. Remember a while back when we were talking about like, running the race like 99% of the way and just not crossing the finish line? It's basically what we're doing. We're
That's
going through all
literally,
this
oh yeah,
effort to create this and just like, no, we're not going to make a business with it.
wow.
Uh, ooh, or maybe that's the strategy to become rich overnight. It's like do all this work, set all this up, refuse for the longest time to make a business, and one day you're like, fine, and you just like launch a product and like make $1 billion overnight. You're like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's those like overnight millionaire stories of like they just monetize their community because they have
yeah.
hundreds and thousands or millions of subscribers, and it's like, well, I mean, yes, but no. You have been investing in a part of your business for a long, long time until you finally decide to, turn that focus onto like something like money. I mean,
It depends what your
that's
goal
how
is. If
a
you're
lot
like,
of startups
yeah,
work is they'll generate some kind of product and test it in the market, and then they'll go through the process of um, launching it publicly or getting like a round of investment, and after demonstrating the proof of concept.
it's kind of crazy when you think about it because you can just come up with an idea, not do anything, go to people, present it, they give you like millions of dollars, and then nothing happens and they lose the money. And it's like all this, and like it led to nothing, yet people invested millions of dollars.
Yeah, well, on some level it's sort of like there's going to be really good ideas that have so much like exponentially more return than the amount of effort, and it's like if you spread your resources across enough things, you'll I think there's a I don't know that much about investing, but it's like For those few things that do hit, it's worth the loss on the other things to just have enough volume to try stuff. And I imagine as an investor, you probably want to like minimize your risk as much as possible. It's like a low cost investment, like high predicted return on investment. You probably get a significant stake in whatever it is you're investing by being an early adopter. But I mean, I don't know, it's fascinating. That's something that I'm interested in learning at some point.
Yeah, because it just seems to me like people spend so much time building a business when people like us, at least, are very good at coming up with ideas. We just suck at, doing the work to make it actually real.
Mm-hmm.
But if we have those connections with people who have the finances,
Mm-hmm.
then all these amazing ideas we have could actually be created.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's at some level you sort of have to be like, you need at least like three major components in place. You need some sort of market feedback system. Like you need to know, what does the market actually want in terms of what kind of problems are need to be solved. And so then whatever you create, like where all the creativity lives, which is where kind of we like to hang out. It's like you attach what you build to that market need. So it's like, well, here's why you need this thing, because it can be used to solve that problem. But then you also need like a third tier of somebody who's really good at the execution and the implementation and the efficiency of, what do you build first, what do you sell first, so that you're making the money right away, so that you get that flywheel started. Because yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a process of, there's so many things that I think are possible that are great ideas, but if people if they don't understand it, they're not going to pay for it. If they don't think they want it, like you kind of have to go and make it from scratch yourself and prove what it does in order for people to decide, oh, I need that. And I think for so many of those ideas that are like, nobody can see that but you, those can't be your first ideas if you want to be really successful and make a lot of money. It's like, those are things that you need to do after you've already set up your foundational, like, where's your basic income coming from, are you regularly investing, and like you have wiggle room now and time freedom to be able to, all right, I'm just going to make this thing that I believe in, even if nobody else does. Because you sort of need like a haven to like protect your delusion until it becomes something other people be like, oh, that's real, oh, I want it.
Just realized what the biggest problem is, that if we can solve, we pretty much have an endless supply of customers. And the problem is that people don't want anything that you have to offer them. So that's the biggest problem for entrepreneurs and business people and coaches and anything to do with entrepreneurship, is that deep down, no one really wants or needs anything that you have to offer. So if we can solve that problem, then we have something that everyone wants, which is maybe like a catch-22, because it's like, well, if no one wants anything and like they want that, but do they really want it?
So if they don't want anything, are we saying that they want nothing?
Ooh, nothing interesting. This is the answer. Nice. I like where you went with that.
So if you don't want anything and you're not selling anything, maybe you have a shot.
uh, what if that's the solution to creating like because every business kind of has its limits, its limit of growth or potential, or whatever that is. Maybe this is the way to create a limitless business. It's by understanding people don't really want or need anything, so let's not create or offer anything of value. And that's exactly what they want. And I think maybe that comes back to like, a week or two ago, back when I was in San Andres, and we are talking about like, we're too smart for our own good. Let's just go like dumb and like, all right, what gets millions and billions of views? People going around hitting other people in the nuts, as an example, like that level of dumb. And I think this show, like maybe not that level, but it's not that level of dumb, it's that level of boring.
I think there's something there. I mean,
yeah, a lot of dumbness.
one of my favorite. But the thing is, it's like, I don't know that I think there's a niche for it. I don't think it's universally appealing though.
True.
One of my favorite talk show hosts, Craig Ferguson, did the Late Late Show on CBS, I believe. And he would always have a section of the show with like guest interviews where they just would stare at each other. That you'd call it an awkward pause. And it was just literally like, his show was sort of like a satire of late night shows. Like it was a good late night show, but it was a little bit like, none of this really matters. This is a stupid kind of artificial format. So we're just gonna like lean into how stupid this really is. He'd have like a dancing horse come out every so often, and like his co-host was a puppet that was like a skeleton comedian. Anyway, it was like it was very funny and kind of very self-aware, but like, it only appealed to a certain audience. All the things I think that are like one level more of like observation, I think kind of leave a lot of people out. I think most people don't think or observe about their life. They just kind of do stuff, and you almost have to be like lowest common denominator to have that like really broad popularity. I mean, I think that's why they talk in marketing all the time about like the big mega niches. It's like, these are the things that sell all the time, every time. It's like, these are the kind of big buckets, and you find a sub niche inside of those, or a micro niche, to kind of start your thing. But in all reality, everybody's selling the same like 4 or 5 things. It's just, who do you find that knows you and is willing to trust your brand or your promise?
You know what? This might be the next level of stuff, because there's always been like certain types of entertainment that I'm like, I just don't get it. Like reality show, super fake. Talk show, super fake. Watching other people play video games. Like, you could be playing the video game, but you're watching someone else play. Like, that always blew my mind. And it's like, people enjoy watching other people have conversations, but they're usually conversations with themes or interesting things. But this is literally like a normal everyday conversation that you'd have with a friend. And I feel like with the internet, more and more people are feeling lonely and they don't have that connection. So the solution for them, instead of going out and actually meeting people and making friends and having these kinds of conversations, is going to be like, all right, let's find a channel where people have boring, normal, everyday conversations and watch them. And to them, it's like, we become their friends because they keep watching us and getting to know us, even though they've never actually met us.
That would be wild. That almost blows my mind in terms of like how, but I can totally see a scenario where that might play out. It's like, we're just being authentic and normal relating human beings. And because that's not easy or not apparent how to do that for some people, that might fill the need for some people.
And I'm wondering if, like, because a lot of shows on YouTube, it's like you speak directly to the audience.
Mhm.
But for us, it's just like we're friends. We have these conversations anyway. We're just broadcasting that to the world.
Yeah.
It's like you don't need to address the audience, even though in the beginning I'm like, hey, you're losers. But you know, I just feel like we don't need to do that. Like we don't need to put on a show or a performance or engage
Right.
the audience. It's just like we're us. We're here. We're not queer, but we're still kind of interesting in our own way.
Yeah. I think the more we try to not be interesting, the more interesting it gets.
Yeah. Every time we're like, all right, what's the dumbest, most uninteresting thing we can do? And then we just start like popping up shoes and socks. And I feel like that's more interesting than the normal conversation. I think this is kind of like a simple, dumbed down version of what we're talking about a couple months ago of like, what if you broadcast your life 24/7? Kind of like in the Truman Show, but for real.
Yeah. And I think on some level it's sort of like there's a two-tiered approach happening. Like what we're doing is you and I are real friends and
Wait,
we
we
just
are.
like we just we just like the time, but like because of the people that we are, we kind of like are meta analyzing like what's happening in the conversation. So it's sort of like
Dude, this is a show like about the show without the actual show. So it's like we're talking about the show, but the show we're talking about is this show. So it's kind of like
yeah.
there's after show conversation at the same time as the actual show.
Hmm. So this literally is like the Seinfeld of podcasts. Like it's not about anything. The commentary about the show is what the show is, and there is no show. It's like it exists and it doesn't exist, and it's somewhere in between all at the same time.
And I feel like because of this originality, it could either flop completely because it's a little of everything. So it's not anything really.
Mhm.
So it's like, it's kind of like those movies that try to like blend 4 or 5 different genres and they're like, everyone's going to want to watch it. But it's like, no, everyone hates it because it's not what they want. So
Yeah.
either it could flop or we're going to find the perfect combination of like random stuff and create like this new genre.
Yeah. Hmm. I'm gonna laugh like this might not even be that new.
True. We probably think it's super original, but there's like 50 million other shows like this.
Yeah.
I bet it's kind of like when you're a writer writing for like Hollywood, let's say, on a TV show, and you have this idea for an episode, and you're like, oh, that is so cool, so original. And then you write, and then people are like, oh, you just stole from that other show or this other show. And you're like, but I thought it was super original.
Yeah, there are no new ideas anywhere. It's just like we're all just rehashing the same big ideas. But I think that's the thing is like, you know,
We're basically ripping off Seinfeld and making it way worse.
oh, man. That could be our tagline, worst show ever. Nothing interesting. Worst show ever.
I think we need to earn that title. You know, kind of like in Hollywood when they have the Golden Raspberry Awards. I think we need like the equivalent of that for like. Ooh, does YouTube have like joke awards?
I don't know. I know they have the
Yeah, like 100,000, like 500 million or whatever numbers they are, but I don't know if they
Yeah,
have.
they've got
No.
the oh shoot, what is it called? The Webby Awards is one.
Dude, imagine like however
Streamies.
many years from now, receiving the first billion subscriber award ever. And then
Let's
knowing
see.
us, we'd probably be like, all right, just cut it down the middle with each half.
just like have the whole thing ground into dust and then separate each little particle, drop it in like some sort of like composite, and then like just sell the award off. Like, so if you have like 100,000 pieces of the award, or more, and you just distribute it to your fan base. Oh, you could totally have like an NFT or a cryptocurrency like based on that award. It's like here's a billion strong of us that believe in this whatever stupid thing that it is. Like clearly we have enough energy to create our own ecosystem.
I'm realizing we have like the same potential of other. You look at most of the like top subscribed to channels on YouTube, like, okay, they have a theme, but it's still a lot of random stuff within that theme. And it's the same for us. Like we have a theme, like we talk about nothing interesting. We have everyday conversations. That's kind of our thing. But within that, we have like entrepreneurship, we have family, we have friends, we have like all these different subsections.
Storytelling, mindset,
Eating
philosophy,
and doing dumb stuff.
yeah, stupidity is one of our biggest buckets.
I wonder if it's possible to fail. Like, let's say we do this regularly, like, let's say 2 to 3 times per week on average for 20 years. Would it be possible to not be successful? Maybe not like a billion, but like we're bound to get like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of subscribers if we do this regularly for 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, if we just don't quit and just crank out content, I mean, you're absolutely gonna find some people, and I think on some level, it's how the market perceives what it is that really is gonna drive it. Not like whatever we do and whatever we want is almost irrelevant. But if we just started with a couple dozen of people that actually know us, that really actually care about what we say, and they like kind of frequently tune in, like there's gonna be some themes that be like, you know what we really like that you do is this or that, or like this is why I watch. I mean, if
You
you
know what
can
we really like that you do? Nothing. You suck. But
thank you.
I
take that as a
the
compliment.
funny thing is that's exactly how we would react.
I know, right?
I'm just
only show on the internet that can't fail because it's already failing.
I'm just wondering, like, for now it's more about having conversations, but what if we decided to take this to the next level where it's like, instead of, sending voice messages and texts in Messenger as we normally do, it's like, what if we just go live and create a 30-second video of like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. It's like we're literally like shooting back.
Yeah,
it's just like our friendship in its entirety on display.
I like that idea a lot.
I think it's dumb. I do. I'm just wondering, like, how would it work? Because for now, it's like you have the channel, so you have the passwords and everything. So it's like I need the password, and then like I'd have to sign in and go live. How would that work?
So I kind of feel like your channel is a little bit like that, in a sense that like you're talking to yourself, but it's also like you could kind of directly talk to me, be like, oh, like I'm just gonna tell you this thing. I don't know exactly how it would fit in, but maybe we just sort of like have two accounts where we're just kind of, there used to be this culture, or maybe it was even a feature. Yeah, YouTube used to have video replies where you could like respond to somebody's YouTube video.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember precisely, but it would be like people would do video responses to things. So somebody would do a video and then they'd be like, read this such and such. And I don't know if it was like an official feature. Let me see. YouTube. What happened to YouTube video responses? Dun, 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 dun.
Da-da-da.
0.0004 click-through rate on video responses submitted by users. That experiment did not work so well.
Wow. Okay. You know what's funny is like people like us try to come up with original stuff, such as business and things like that. And even uber successful businesses, okay, I should have used Uber because I used that word, but anyway, YouTube, it's like, all right, what's their brand new feature that just like exploded? Oh, they just copied TikTok. Just like even huge businesses just copy each other.
Yeah.
And like we're idiots and we're like, no, we're going to create something new.
Yeah. So what are people doing right now that is like in the space of what we're doing, which is like pointless conversation or like stuff that's not niche down to a topic, or do we have to start with a niche?
Had a pointless conversation.
I don't have anything I can point with.
It could be those people who like point to maps with the middle finger and you're like, are you trying to insult me or are you just pointing?
This is funny. 2003, this article is saying Google is ditching video responses from its video sharing site. Like people didn't even know the name YouTube enough to call it YouTube. And then somebody's like, whatever happened to YouTube video responses? YouTube removed them because they removed everything useful. But it's funny. It's like, okay, maybe that feature wasn't used very much, but there was still like a tiny subsection of people who really liked it.
I feel like it's kind of, yeah, it would work really well if the channel is made for that. Of like, hey, we're having a conversation on this topic, and then people who watch can like share their opinion by video, and it keeps like going back and forth. That would work, but I feel like for most channels, it's just like, well, I want people to see my face and hear what I have to say, and no one cares. Kind of like this.
I think it would be, I mean, the honest truth is I think the idea was good, but the way human behavior works, it's too much of an uphill battle to get people to do stuff like that when there isn't any energy there. So it's like it would be a lot more useful to create like a fan base or following, like if we had conversations like this, but instead of doing YouTube responses or like trying to get people to participate after the fact, it's just like, if we're doing a thing, here's the Zoom link. You want to come on and like, say something or whatever. It's like, or drop it in the comment while it's happening. And the people that are there are the people who are the most important. It's like after the fact, it's like a value add, but it's sort of like the people who are the most bought in, the people who are the most relevant are the ones that show up.
I just realized something you said kind of sparked something. It's like, what do people want? People want mindless entertainment. They don't want to comment or participate. So, okay, let's give them that. But the problem with that is that the YouTube algorithm requires likes and comments and interaction in order to tell them, oh, people like this, let's share it to more people. So it's like by giving people what they want, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot.
So how do you make engagement at like stupidly easy? How do you make it as mindless as just sitting and consuming?
And the thing is, like, the only thing I can think of is like making it so dumb that people like comment just to say this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, but then everyone's going to dislike it. And then once again, it's going to have the inverse effect.
I wonder if does
But you got to
how
mess
does
it.
that, I wonder if the dislike algorithm penalizes you or if it just measures engagement. Like, could you be divisive and like the algorithm still shares your stuff because it's creating engagement?
I don't know. I feel like YouTube wouldn't want to share content that people dislike, but at the same time, people like to dislike stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have already seen a little bit of that experiment with like Alex Jones getting kicked off the platform. It's like
Ooh.
if you go, I don't know if you've followed. So like in the United States, there's this talk show host called he had a show called InfoWars that was just kind of like, I think he leaned really hard into the conspiracy theory, just like weirdo ideas that like he kind of gave a voice to like the strange corners of the internet, especially in the political arena. So like all the kind of weird conspiracy theories and like stuff that's just sounded like either nonsense or very unhelpful fake news type things. And so there's like a hardcore, like unironic follower fan base that felt like all the stuff that he was talking about and doing was actually legitimately a perspective and point of view of reality. And then there were people who watched him to just kind of like for the entertainment value or to and then there's a huge section of like kind of people who kind of hate watch the content and like this is so disgusting, this person is like, and the reality is like I don't know what he's really like. Like Joe Rogan's had him on his show a few times and he's like there is a level of like his personality is that kind of chaotic, so he may not be intentionally like leveraging other people's ideas and doing it from like a really smart business. He may just be a little bit like his persona. But anyway, for whatever reason, it just was so controversial consistently that YouTube and a whole bunch of other social media sites just kind of blackballed him and kicked them off their platforms. And so I think there's some level of you have to be creating some kind of value that people universally recognize that they may not be like, well, it's not for me, but I see the value of what you're doing. If you're just there to like break things at some level, like that's gonna catch up to you, even if it's really popular.
Yeah, plus I don't think that we're really the type of people who could create a show where we constantly like irritate and annoy people. It's like annoy them, but in a funny, like stupid kind of way, not like hate you kind of way, like I hope you die, you know? By the way, something kind of funny that has nothing to do with this, well, a tiny bit to do with it, but literally as we're speaking, I got a notification from YouTube saying someone subscribed to my channel. It's a completely different channel than the one we're on right now, but still kind of funny.
That is kind of
Oh,
funny.
you know what'd be hilarious? It's like I
Is,
keep doing
is
my
that
channel like, on the side. It's like our goal for this channel is to get to 1 billion subscribers. It's like for the other channel, I don't even care or try, and that's the channel that gets to 1 billion.
oh, okay. So what if
Like
we
I
set the
literally
intention?
fail by succeeding elsewhere.
Okay, so what if we set the intention to get to 1 billion subscribers, but we don't say where it needs to happen? So it's like
All
if
right.
we do something consistently, maybe that's the energy that you need to create that opens the door for something to happen somewhere else. But if by just being consistent and like spinning up that kind of creative force, maybe that expresses itself somewhere else, maybe in another social media platform or like another channel, or maybe it's like you go on somebody else's podcast and cumulatively get, like 1 billion views of something. I don't know.
Okay. Something is coming up. And I've noticed this often that the universe likes to, pardon my French, but fuck with people. And it's like, I don't know, the example that comes to mind is like recently.
Sorry, I had to laugh because like
Go
you
ahead, go ahead.
speak French and it's funny to hear
I
you
know,
say that that expression.
I know, I thought it was funny. But yeah, it's like the example that comes to mind is like I'm back in Bogota. It's like I've been getting a lot of matches, and it's like it's gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm having sex so much that I'm like, I need a day to relax. It's like, okay, that seems like a really good problem to have. But it seems like the universe is like, oh, you don't want sex? Okay, here's even more of it. And I'm like, but no. And it's like, I'm wondering if we're kind of doing the opposite of what we should do. Because we're like, okay, let's set the ridiculous goal of getting 1 billion subscribers. But if we do that, is the universe going to automatically be like, no, you want 1 billion? Screw you, you're getting like 3. Should we go the opposite route and be like, all right, let's not even think about that. Let's not even focus on that. Let's maybe purposefully try to not have subscribers and have the universe mess with us that way and be like, fine, you don't want subscribers? Here's a ton of them.
Okay, so here's what comes up for me when you say that is like so much of manifestation is about like existing in the space where is as if it already exists. So if we exist in a space like we have too many subscribers, so how do we do our content in a way that pushes people away and makes them want to unsubscribe? Is that what we need in
I,
order?
I think I might have been wrong. I don't think the universe is trying to mess with you necessarily. It's more the universe gives you what you worked for and what you have. It's like I worked for that. I'm like, okay, I want to get matches, I want to go on dates, and I want to have sex. And it's like that's what happened. The universe is like, oh, that's what you want. Here's more of it. Even though I'm like, I don't want it anymore. The universe is like, no, you said you wanted it, you did the effort, you got it. Here's a bunch more.
Mm-hmm.
So what if that's how it works instead?
I think that's I mean I think that's true. On some level, like the stuff that I see the results of, it's like um the things that you've put into action because of the intentions that you've set. Um
I
it's
think
like
it's kind of like that principle of for like business loans and stuff like that. It's like you need to prove that you can afford it in order to get the loan. It's like, yes, but if I can afford it, I don't need the loan. It's like
mhm.
that same principle of like the algorithm and the way the world works is designed to give you what you already have. But a lot of the time, once you're there, you don't need it anymore.
Mhm.
So it's like, all right, how do we get to that point so that we do get all those subscribers, even though we don't
Mm,
necessarily want them or try to get them?
right. Mhm. Okay. So yeah, so what would the channel need to be? What does it look like when you have successful subscribers and we just need to move ourselves to that point?
I have no idea because I've never had a successful YouTube channel.
I mean, I've done a little bit of the research, and a lot of it has to do with the way that you market and make it niche down enough for people to find your stuff.
Yeah, I feel like that's a big part of it. It's like kind of like I was telling you the other day, where it's like, the Anthony Morrison, he's like
Mhm,
records videos every single day to post to his YouTube channel. And it's like the same formula, just slightly tweaked. So it seems like a different video, but
mhm,
to the algorithm, it's the exact same thing. And it knows which people to send it to.
mm,
And because of that, it's so focused, then it gets a lot of comments and a lot of likes and a lot of shares.
right.
And because of that, like the algorithm keeps working and working and working.
Mhm,
How can we apply this principle to this? Because I feel like we're very varied in our discussion topics.
yeah.
That's good for entertainment purposes, but it's not necessarily good for algorithm purposes or porpoises.
All right. I think that we shouldn't think about this.
You're right. Yep. We're not using the floating approach.
I mean, I think if anything, I wanna if I was gonna test anything, it would be not how to learn YouTube algorithm. It's like, how do we validate floating?
Yep. Yep. I like it. It's like we've proven that floating works in the real everyday life world.
Mhm.
So like, all right, let's go into special areas. Like, all right, does it work for YouTube algorithms? I don't know. Imagine if that's the solution. It's like floating. That's how to get like a ton of subscribers.
Dude, I can't even, my brain would break if we just like spent zero effort and just were ourselves and just like literally tried to be as stupid and like have as much fun as possible. If that was the thing that broke the platform, like I don't even know what to say. Other than like apparently we're onto something.
And people are like reaching out left and right, like, how are you doing this? We're like, I don't know.
Well, we do know
Well, yeah, but it's like
if we
we can't
rigorously
show it,
if we
like we can't.
rigorously test that the point of what we're doing is to validate floating.
But what if we
One
just
watching, zero likes.
but
I'm the one
what
that's watching.
if but what if we took this approach of like we just assume that floating works for everything, for business, for YouTube channels, for life, for money, for relationships, for very, very stupid conversations. It's
Mhm.
like, what if we just type, that's how I'm living my life because I'm choosing to believe that's how it works.
I
It's kind
think,
of like principle of, how we make our life so complicated. And we're like, all we have to do to make it simple is choose to believe that life is simple.
mhm.
Choose to believe that floating is the answer to everything. I think by definition, it's going to become the answer to everything.
Yeah, I think it's, in fact, I know that that's right because I have I have a similar thing. I have like a creation framework that I put together that I just use for everything. And it's like the same algorithm, the same like 7 steps. And anytime I need to make something, I'm like, I'm trying way too hard. I need to just plug in my template. So like I'll get it out in front of me and I'm like, it's already the way that I think. So that's a big plus. It's like I've mapped out how I naturally progress through ideas and stuff, but I've also noticed that it's a pattern that I can see in like other successful things. So like when I did my posts last week that got some sales, like I went back and analyzed the posts because I wrote them very like in flow, very much just like kind of farted them out, and then it's like, but I looked at it and like, oh yeah, every like all 7 elements are here of the creation framework that I built. And then when somebody bought it, he's like, hey, I'm launching a product in a few weeks, like I need this like yesterday. So I literally like had to build a presentation for him specifically in just a couple of days. So I was working, I didn't have a lot of time, so I put the template out on my calendar and just like wrote down some things, and like that became my presentation. And it took me a couple hour, like it took me like an hour of just filling that in, and then I had like an hour's worth of content, and then it took me like 4 hours to make the slides because I was up all night. I probably could have done it a little faster if had gotten some rest, but like I didn't have to think about it. I just like did it because I had that pattern. But then I'm like, it's working enough that it's making me money. It's working enough that like if I just kind of modeled that in a few other places, I could probably build out a system that proves that that system works. So if it works for that, it should work for Floaching. If we can just maintain, like we've already shown it works pretty well in some other areas, like intention setting and magnetizing money, or like creating confidence and excuse me.
I feel like Floaching is exactly what you're describing, like that system that you're describing that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Floaching allows us to create that system in the background without being like really conscious of it and using
Right.
it. And then at some point we get to a place where like, that's what I've been doing. Now I get it. It's like the system becomes clear, but Floaching
Right.
allows us to do it for all that period before we consciously understand what we're doing.
Right. Right. Okay. So the
So
intention is, how do we be ourselves in a way that is valuable enough to viewers and the YouTube algorithm before we really understand what we're doing, so that if we do experience some amount of success, like by the time we get there consciously, we've already been doing it.
I think we don't need to understand that. We just need to do
Yeah.
it. And I don't know, it's just slightly different than Floaching, but just something that's been on my mind the last few days or week or so. And it's like, I keep making my life difficult. As in like, last month, like I started this 30-day challenge to set up the business and everything. It's like midway through, because of the travel, it ended up kind of like slacking off. And now it's like, I haven't really done any work lately. It's like, all I have to do is just do the work. And now it's like, all right, in 2 days, like my booking here ends. And I have to decide, like, am I staying here longer? Do I go somewhere else? And where do I go? How long do I stay? When do I leave? And it's like all these questions, when it's like inside, I already know what I want to do. I want to prolong here, stay here a week, finish the business, setting everything up. And it's like, why am I making my life so difficult for the past few days? Like, struggling, trying to figure out what do I have to do and everything. It's like, I got to do the research and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I already know what I'm going to do anyway. Let's just do it now. And it's like, I don't understand why I keep going back to, hey, make my life difficult. Doesn't have to be, but make my life difficult. Why is that my default? It's just frustrating.
What if
Look,
making our lives harder is the easy mode for us?
oh damn.
Like, I think there's a certain type of person that like will avoid engaging life because it's just like that's just not what they want. I I wonder sometimes about like I wonder if I kind of blow up my life or like do things it's like, oh, this will be harder than just leaving stuff alone because I need that on some level. It's like that's what gets me to actively be a participant in my story.
Ooh, crazy idea. What if every single action we take makes our life worse? What if the absolute most productive thing we can do in every single moment is absolutely nothing? Like that is the complete opposite of everything we've ever thought. Is this like the ultimate form of floating?
Maybe. I think it's one of those things where it's like weirdly both at the same time. It's like you have to get to the place where what you're doing feels like you're doing nothing. I mean, it's like a tree has to grow, but at the same time, it doesn't exert any effort to grow. So how can you, because I think we know that there's a principle you have to generate activity in order for things to happen, but how do you do it in a way that it's like almost the same as doing nothing?
Okay, I think I've figured it out. It's like breathing. If you just leave it alone, it happens by itself. If you try to control it, it's like, am I breathing too much? Not enough? Am I breathing like long enough? Is it short enough? And it's like we
Right.
overthink, and it's like that's all we think about. And then
Mhm.
we just stop
Am I
doing it.
breathing
Do
right?
it automatically.
What's the right way to do it?
How do I
You
breathe
read
again?
like 50 books on breathing and like, wait, I think I'm dying. Maybe I'm not so good at breathing anymore.
It's like, what if, like, not necessarily everything in life, but what if most things in life are like that? It's like it's going to happen on autopilot. You can choose to take control if you want to, but most of the time, it's not going to be helpful.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I also like what you were saying about like doing things in such a way that it's effortless, in the sense of like, as an example, this whole trip thing. Like deep down, I know what I have to do. So it's like if I just the second I'm like, okay, I have a few days to decide what to do. Like, okay, what should I do? Okay, I should stay here for an extra week, finish setting up the business, and then move on. It's like if I did that the second the thought came up of what should I do next, all this extra work and like thought process and research and everything else could have been completely avoided. And even
Mm,
though there was a tiny bit of work, it was like 1% of the work that I ended up doing.
mm,
That might be the like, all right, 1% of the time you need to take control of your breathing when you're like running or doing exercise or something specific. But
right.
99% of the time, just leave it alone.
Yeah. I think I
Nope,
think
don't think
there's I think
about it.
there's something here. Because what you just said uh about like listening to what you know you need to do and then just making yourself do it. I think we're good at recognizing like intuitively, oh, I need to do something, but we don't have a process or a container where it's like when we recognize that thing, how do we get it into reality? Like I think we are really good at sensing, oh, something needs to happen here. But like if you could say, oh, I know I need to do this, so I should tell somebody, or it needs to go on my calendar or something, like whatever habit that makes it the easiest for it to get somewhere where it doesn't get dropped, and then a process where you can ensure that it will happen. And I think it's the life processes get to where you don't need any support structure or anybody else to make you do it. But until you get to that place, how do we build a system that makes it easier for us to do what we're supposed to do than to pawn it off on future me? Because
I think
I go ahead.
I think we need to remind ourselves over and over that doing the work is the easy version. Because we keep thinking like, I don't want to do the work. So you put it off and you put it off and you keep thinking about it. Like it balloons into the whole thing. It's like, if you just did the work the second you had to do it, it would have been a fraction of the mental and physical effort that you actually did. Like, I think we need to get to the place where we understand that, like, it's so deeply ingrained within us that we're like, I'm going to be lazy. And the lazy thing to do is to actually do this.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's like having like when you have an idea of something you need to do, it's almost like you have like all this thing that all of a sudden this thing attaches to you, and you're like you're trying to move forward it through life. So it's like throwing an anchor out of the car, and all of a sudden it starts like snagging on things and collecting stuff. It's like the sooner you deal with it, the less effort it's going to be. The longer you wait, like the more trash and crap it's going to accumulate. It's like now you have this thing that's like heavier to drag than your entire vehicle, and now you've just created a ton of extra work to like untangle yourself from this mess that you've been feeding by refusing to deal with it. And so yeah, so I've been having a conversation with a bunch of other people that they struggle with the same thing. It's like, yeah, I have things that I know I should be doing, but like it's so hard to make myself do them. And I'm like, I should just schedule co-working spaces where I can sit down and be like, this is when I'm sitting down to do some work, and invite everybody else to kind of do it with me. So like just the potential of somebody might show up to work means I have to be there to do it. And then
you do realize that if you do this, this is going to be the continuation of what we started, like, what was it, 6-8 months ago, when we did that a couple of times of like, let's just kind of like be live, but not really talk, and each like do our work separately.
that would be an even more disinteresting channel. If we just live streamed us working. I wonder if anybody does that. Does anybody have a channel on YouTube of like a co-working community? Oh, what if that? No, that would not be the value of that thing. Because I was gonna say, what if you could do that where maybe you could. I was like, what if you could have a co-working community where people show up to work, but they just keep our channel on mute. And then when you need like a mental break or something, you turn it on and we're just there talking about stupid things. So it's like there's always entertainment running, but it's like it's never anything that you feel like you're missing. So
Dude,
it's like
that
so
could
by not having a theme, what's that?
That could be our upsell for the channel. Like you can just watch, but if you want like to actually have conversations with us, just pay monthly membership and you get access to us.
There you go.
Just talk.
That would be the perfect way to monetize it. Like, yeah, absolutely.
Although we're definitely not at the point of monetization, but if one day we are, this could be a very simple option.
Did you like the video?
No.
There's 2 likes on it now.
Wait, really?
Yeah. I liked the video, and then somebody else must have liked the video.
Oh, wow.
Oh, but this reminds me of what we just said a minute ago. It's like the universe gives you what you did the work for. So like I started liking the video.
I love what you just said. The universe gives you what you didn't work for. I love that. That is perfect. That is amazing. That has to be the new catchphrase. The universe gives you what you didn't work for. So might as well work on the things that you enjoy because the universe is not going to give you what you work for anyway.
Right?
I love this so much. Wow. uh,
Right.
Ooh, this is amazing.
Oh man, I know. I feel like on some level, like we are the only audience for this. And if anybody
Yeah.
subscribes, great. But I think why I've been struggling to put my finger on what this channel could be or what it is because it's like the channel is our friendship. And it's hard to put that into words. So
Yeah.
if you by saying like, oh, it's nothing, you basically open up any possibility. It's like that's kind of what it is. But it's like literally this channel is just an avatar that can't accurately describe what our friendship has been and like how we show up and the thing that happens when we are in the same space, like that's what it is. But in order to know what that is or understand it, like you can't put that in a sentence really. You can't, you just have to be in the experience. And
Yes.
in that sense, it is floaching.
Actually, you can put it in a sentence, and you did. And that sentence is the universe gives you what you didn't work for. We didn't work for this friendship. It just happened by itself.
You're
Like
right.
building this friendship never, ever, ever felt like work.
Okay, so what if we could create that in every other aspect of our life?
You know what? I think
I think
that,
that's why we should be floaching.
but I think that
Not for the billion subscribers, but like, how do you make everything feel effortless? And then the universe gives you like, you didn't work for that, but you did something, and here's what that something is.
I think it's true, but there's a slight there's an explanation to it. And the best example I can come up with is dating. Like I never really okay, that's not. I did work to improve my dating skills, but everything I did to do that failed. Like back in the day, I literally ordered, I forget how many CDs it was, where pickup artists would go on stage and gives speeches, explain different techniques and everything. It's I put a lot of effort, time, and probably more money than I should have into trying to learn stuff to become better at dating. None of it worked. But all the other skills that I built for communication, motivational speaking, coaching, entrepreneurship, all those things that have nothing to do with dating created the exact perfect version of myself that for some reason has become very good at dating, even though I did the work, but I didn't do it for dating. So I think that's how the world works. It's it rewards you for the work you do, but not the reason why you did it.
So, oh, that's such a powerful realization because I think what it shows you is we don't actually understand anything. We don't really, we're very stupid in the sense that we do things and we expect something to happen, but we don't understand what work we really did. And maybe the cumulative effort of what our life is becoming something we never could have predicted because we don't really see the whole picture. We don't see any of the picture. It's we think we understand things because whatever, we want to feel like we're in control. So we tell ourselves that story.
I just realized, you know what I said, I don't know, a couple weeks ago or something like that, whereas we're too dumb or we're too smart for our own good. I think that's not quite right. What you just said is we're so dumb that we think we're too smart for our own good. That's how dumb we are.
Wow.
And I think every time we try to be smart, so it's we come up with this genius idea and it never works out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we literally do the dumbest stuff and don't try to do stuff, and amazing things happen. And it's like every time we try to be something we're not, aka smart, doesn't work out. When we try to do things we shouldn't be doing, aka work hard, doesn't work out. And whenever we do the opposite of what we think we should do, it works out. So it's like, all right, we just got to be really dumb, really lazy, and do the opposite of everything that our brain thinks we should be doing.
I like that.
Although now, since my brain thought of that, should we not do that because my brain thought of it? Or is that like one level too much?
No, I mean, to kind of like reduce it down to something graspable, it's sort of like do things and like let go of the expectation. And it's sort of like, okay, so I've started to recognize I at least have the raw skills to make money with copywriting. Like I haven't practiced it very much, but like by kind of just experimenting with, oh, I wrote a couple of posts this week because I saw people were clearly asking for something. And I'm like, all right, well, I can fill that need. So I would wrote something offering it at a low enough price. I'm like, okay, it's worth my time. I'm not trying to, you know, bilk anybody for it. I'm just trying to create a solution and make it irresistible for them. And it works. Like if I keep trying to squeeze that orange by like, all right, how do I make more money out of this? Or how to like, exactly. I think on some level, it's like if I'm doing the copywriting for the outcome, I think that I'm gonna put some kind of throttle on how much success I'm gonna do it, as opposed to let me just do this process just to do the process. Let me just do the things to learn what I'm gonna learn. And if I make money out of it, I make money out of it. But like the goal is, let me just do things. Let me just be in motion, because the actions, like the goal might not actually even be make money from copywriting. It might be like have the discipline to show up and do work for like 3 months, so that when somebody is like, oh, by the way, I just randomly found you and I know that you're like the exact right person to direct this movie. I'm like I wasn't preparing for that. I don't know, but like at least I built some muscle in like showing up and doing work consistently. Like you never know. There's no way to predict like what the universe is going to do. But it's like if you are willing to just do stuff because you know it's going to add up to something that you can't plan, maybe that's worth trying. I think that testing that hypothesis, seeing how well it overlays with kind of the flow-chain philosophy, I think is worth doing.
I think that, you know, the whole centaur and like rider and horse analogy, or car and driver and everything, I think it relates to what
speaking of unicorn, finish your thought, and I have a really wackadoo idea about unicorns.
Okay. Just want to put that out there. Unicorns and centaurs are different, but not important. Anyway, what if we were confused? What if we thought our mind...
What if? I think it's almost guaranteed that we were confused.
Yeah.
That's like my eternal state, is just confusion. And I'm just slowly learning to love it more. It's like, okay, I can be the guy that's confused.
But okay, so what if we thought that our brain and our mind was the same thing? We're like, oh, well, our brain is the machine that interprets what our mind is thinking. So to us, it's the same thing. And we think like, oh, our brain is the mind, so let's use our brain to come up with the solution. And we think the solution is genius because we think our mind came up with it, but it's in fact our brain that came up with it. And it's like, mind is, if you will, the soul. It's like the writer, the part of ourselves that we can't really fully consciously grasp.
Mm-hmm.
But we think that part of us is our brain. Mm-hmm. So we're like, oh, I need to figure this thing out. And like, my brain is smart. It can figure out how to do this. When we come up with a solution, we're like, this is so smart. I'm a genius. This is awesome. It's going to work. And we become rich. And it fails. And we're like, why? It's like all we have to do is use our brain for what it was designed to do, which is just run the algorithms. So it's kind of like the mind or the soul or the writer or whatever you want to call that is the AI, the program, if you will. And the brain is just the computer, the physical thing that allows the computer to run. But we're so like dumb that we confuse the two and we thought it was the same thing. And we keep using our computer or our brain to come up with solutions instead of just listening to what our mind already knows what to do. So it's like, okay, we need to stop trying to be smart. We just need to start using our brain for what it was designed to do, which is just do whatever the hell our mind tells it to do.
I think this is right. I think this is yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me because it like in the like for instance in the writing process, when the character is just embodying the like the essence of what the character is, like it seems to kind of move and go on its own, but you still have the like the ability of the author to like plot, well, I want it to go here, and then that character will sort of fit that model or template of whatever you want to happen. I like it doesn't make any sense for the character to be like start talking to the author and be like, hey, I want to go here, I want to do that, like that. That's not what naturally happens. And if it does, then you have like an unhealthy relationship with your creations.
Dude, remember last year when I had that first big breakthrough of I need to become the main character of my own life? And it's like what you just said. It's like, yes, I need to be the main character. I need to stop trying to be the writer. I'm not the writer. I'm the one who chokes and probably dies here for no reason.
Episode 1, a death. Welcome to our series finale, folks.
Yeah. But I really love this way of looking at it. It's like you're the main character of your own life, but you're not the writer. Stop trying to be the writer. You can't control what happens. Although that would make a really cool story, like a main character who's trying to fight what the writer is telling him to do. It's like, you're writing the story. No, I'm going to screw it up for you. I'm going to make the story like crappy just because I'm deciding, no, it's this kind of story, even though I have no control over it. It's like this constant battle between the writer and the main character. And it's like, oh man, that'd be cool.
All right. That would be really interesting. What if you wrote a story where the character somehow is aware or becomes aware that like there's some kind of creation in an author's story, or like there some level of their manifestation of some other things will, and then they deliberately try to live their life in a way that screws up the whatever. And so then like their process or fight against the like the force or the thing that's creating them, that's like their stubbornness like necessitates some kind of feedback loop. So then the author's like trying to explain them like, here's why I need you to go on this journey. Like it's like trying every possible way to like get this thing to understand why it's better for them, but it just like it doesn't work until they basically like the author decides, okay, I'm going to switch places with you. Like you're going to become the author and I'm going to be the character. And then it's like they have to live the life from the author's perspective of all right, make it up how you want it to be, and then realize like if the character is continually fighting the process, like nothing works. And even if it's like, I don't know, even if it's like, I'm gonna do everything, it's like you say, just the process of seeing like where you want things to go is going to give you a totally different outlook on, I don't know how you would make that like feels like it's a little too simplistic of an idea. I'm sure you could flesh it out and make it interesting, but it's like
You
I
know,
like the idea conceptually a lot more than I like the execution or wanting to do it.
you know what you just described? You described Bruce Almighty.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for this, I just think it's a really cool concept, but I don't think I need to write this. I think I just need this understanding to kind of surrender. It's kind of like, to use Free Guy as an example, of like, oh, I discover that I'm a character in a video game, and it's like I'm kind of stuck here, and he kind of decides to break out of the mold and take control, and it's like, break out of the video game. Other alternative is I discover I'm in a video game. All right, let's fully embrace it. I surrender full control to my predestined destiny that's controlled by something else. And because of that, I become super successful and live an amazing life because I'm not fighting. I'm constantly running with what I'm supposed to do rather than trying to fight against it.
I really think there's something here with this mega timeline idea, like the idea of a simultaneous surrender and yet the effort to become more aligned and tapped in with like, what is that thing that I'm supposed to be doing? Like, where is the player guiding me that I as the avatar am supposed to just follow? Like how do you build that like receiving process of or is like trying to understand like the character trying to like go off in their own little side quests.
Okay, imagine, I don't know, imagine like a video game with like RPG, let's say, when there's like weapons and armor and like different like skills and stuff you can get. And it's like, because we think we're in control, at some point we're like, ooh, this like armor looks really cool. Let's put it on. Without knowing that the armor had the special skill of repelling money. The main character keeps trying to get us money, but it just keeps getting repelled. And we're like, just all we have to do is just remove the armor. It's like we're going to get a ton of money. It's like, what if like the main character, the writer, the player, however you want to describe this, like, is doing everything in its power to help us. But because we're so stubborn and we want to be in control, we just keep ruining everything. It's like, that's why we've never been successful.
So how do you like, what's the right process to stop ruining everything? Because I think there's a lot of people who would be willing to do that if they knew what to do. I mean, like, I'm game. How do I stop trying and just start being?
I think it's a very difficult process because we've brainwashed ourselves so much. It's kind of like the equivalent of accepting that you're in the matrix. It's like, okay, it means you literally need to accept that your entire world, your entire perception of reality and what you thought was real is fake. And it's like, you literally, it's kind of like you have to kill yourself in a way. And I feel like we've been slowly doing that. So we're more open to it. And it's, I don't think we've gotten to the point where it's like, all right, I'm ready. I'm taking the pill. I want to understand how it works. But it's like, I want to take the pill just to see the real world, to understand, to then go back to the matrix and fully accept, okay, I'm not in control. And that kind of sounds like giving up. But it's like the world we exist in is the video game, is the matrix.
Hi. Is it time to eat?
No, I was wondering, they're done eating. They don't really good time.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe this is the listening to the
Maybe.
bigger thing. All right. To be continued or not.
Yeah, if one of us dies, it's probably not going to be continued.
All right. Before we leave, one crazy idea. I read somewhere that whales had an evolutionary descendant that was something like a common ancestor to wolves. Because whales, especially like killer whales, tend to like live in pods and packs, and like killer whales will actually like hunt as a group. Same thing with dolphins, that sort of thing. So narwhals have like this tooth or this tusk that like comes out with like a unicorn. I was like, what if there's some version of the universe where it's like the narwhal actually is the evolutionary descendant of an ancestor that was something like a unicorn, and that has been kind of retained in like our DNA or ancestor memory of like we kind of know this thing was a thing, like this animal that had like a horn, but like we don't have that anymore because they all moved somewhere else and live in the ocean now as some other like slightly very, I don't know. That was just like my crazy stare, like unfettered imagination at play. But anyway, I'm
I
like, I guess that the value of that was like, what?
The value is the same value as everything we talk about. Nothing.
Nothing exactly. No, but where I was going with that is like, what if all of these stories that we have that everybody like we hear repeated all the time, and like these memes and things that just keep getting shared and shared and shared that stick with us. It's like, what if the value of them is that there is something that exists somewhere in the world that it has just changed shape a little bit so it doesn't look exactly like what we expect it to look like. But the things that we think are like fairy tales or dreams or like impossibilities are actually right in front of us all the time, but we just don't recognize them because we're looking for something else.
What if this principle applied to money? What if money isn't actually what we think it is, and that's why we can't find it?
That's a good topic for next time, I think. I want to.
Yeah, and we'll
I think
probably
that
forget
would be.
it.
What's that?
And we'll probably forget it.
Oh man, I love you. We'll talk again sometime soon.
Love you too, man. This was awesome, especially the unicorn. It was a very crazy way to end the episode. And
I'll see
potentially
ya.
the series.
Bye.
Bye.